Alright, what's going on YouTube? It's Mega here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you your pregame again late, but I'm trying to work it out to get the schedule. Um, Before some of these games start. A few of these games have already started, but the big ones this week, we'll go ahead and get the pregame out before they actually start, so it'll be a good deal. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with SEC like we normally do. You got Florida versus Kentucky. This should be, a cakewalk for Florida. You might see some struggle at the beginning, but I just don't believe that Kentucky has, the depth to deal with a Florida team, especially Florida team is coming off a big win against Tennessee. You've seen what happened last week in the Tennessee and Florida game. Basically, Tennessee's issue is they just didn't have the line to compete with Florida. So we figured out who was the better team there. I'm still not writing Tennessee off. I think they're going to do some good things this year. But, and I hate saying that because, I hate Tennessee, obviously, Alabama fan. But, it is what it is. I think next year will be a rebuild year, especially if they do some recruiting up front. They definitely need a stronger line. So, in saying that, we'll move on to the next game, which could be a big game. You got Missouri and South Carolina. Now, if you remember, South Carolina's only been in the SEC play one time this year. That was the first game. They struggled against a Vanderbilt team that is actually pretty good this year. Now, will they be able to take down Missouri? Well, let's hope so. But, you never know. You never know, especially with South Carolina. They can, as we've seen a couple years ago, they can beat the #1 ranked team in the nation, and they can struggle with the worst team in the SEC. You can never tell. So, and next, speaking of the #1 team in the nation, you got Crimson Tide versus Florida Atlantic. Now, the only thing really I can say about this, Alabama's favored at 50 points on this, so there's not too much we can say. But Corey Henry said that we're not what people think. He's their defensive end, and he thinks that we're not what people think. That's what he said. And we can be beat, that we just execute well. Well, I think that statement lacks intelligence a little bit. And, this is not me trying to, talk smack. But if you execute well, then you're good. Because no coach goes in there and says, well, our attack on execution or our plan on execution is we're going to go in there and get whooped. No. Your plan, your execution is we're going to go in there and we're going to win a game. So if you execute the coach's, goals and objectives the entire time, then you're a good football team. Yes, Alabama can be beat. But I don't agree with his statement. But at the question he was asked, some ESPN announcers, cleared it up. He was asked, what do you think about the game being a 50-point underdog? What is he? How else is he supposed to answer to that? And it sounds worse than what it is. I understand that, and I'm sure his intentions weren't fully there. But like the ESPN guys are saying, you don't say things like that to the media because you just gave fuel. I mean, it's hard enough that Alabama would have enough fuel going into this game, playing a Florida Atlantic team that's pretty much already struggled with other teams. I think they lost like Middle Tennessee. They got shellacked by Georgia. So they only won their first game. They won it 7-3. So Alabama didn't have a lot of fuel going into this. Other than trying to remain only 14 points scored on them this year. And now you've just added fuel to a very small fire that we were probably going to bring down there. So, not saying that we're overlooking them, but, I mean, come on. Everybody knows what I'm talking about here. Alright, so moving on. LSU and Auburn. Auburn's coming off a win, and that's pretty much all I got to say about that. LSU should take care of them pretty good. Georgia and Vandy. I'm telling you right now, I can see Vanderbilt getting tested if they still got the fire that they brought against South Carolina in week 1. I can see Georgia getting a little bit of a test. I'm not predicting a struggle here. I'm just saying that you could possibly see a test, and it'll be worth watching. That's a game that's definitely worth watching. Arkansas and Rutgers. I really hope that Arkansas gets their crap together And going back to the Corey Henry deal, Tyler Wilson made that comment, did we give up out there? And the media's beating him up on that. So I don't need to add any more to that, but I will say that it's pretty heartbroken, but the coach seems pretty crazy. If you've seen him in the media recently, he's just like, hey, everybody smile, it's only one loss. And I agree, it is only one loss. It's a horrible loss, but first shutout since like the 60s, so in Fayetteville. So, well, hopefully they bounce back. I would hate for an SEC team to lose to Rutgers, So, all right, moving on. Mississippi State and South Alabama. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Other than the fact that Mississippi State basically swapped teams with Tennessee, as far as jumping into the top 25. And I really believe they should be there because they're playing good ball. They played good ball last year. A lot of the teams that they played last year that were quality teams, including Alabama, they were hanging around first half. There was still a ball game the first half. And then obviously they didn't have depth. So they got a little bit more depth this year. Not saying that they're going to win the SEC or nothing like that, but they're a quality team, and they're definitely a team that can knock out some good teams. So if I get a chance, I'd like to flip over and watch that. Ole Miss, Tulane. Yeah. Texas A&M, South Carolina State. I didn't know there was a South Carolina State. There's North Carolina State. Maybe I didn't know there was South Carolina State. But I guess we'll see what happens there. All right, and then to go on to the big games, I'm sure everybody wants me to comment on that. Kansas State and Oklahoma State. I'm going to call it right now. This goes into the struggle alert as well. Oklahoma gets exposed on this one. I'm just going to have to say it. They get exposed. We've seen USC. They got exposed. They had no reason to be ranked where they was. Absolutely no reason. The only reason I think they were ranked there is because you got a lot of USC fanboys out there. And, it is what it is. It's the media loves USC for some reason. And boom, the first year they're off of probation. Oh, USC's off probation. Rank them at number 2. And I understand a lot of that is based on Matt Barkley, but what has he done? Like, what has he done to be such a great and wonderful quarterback? And did you see him in that game against Stanford? Horrible, horrible play. So I'm telling you right now, I'm thinking Oklahoma's going to get exposed here. We already seen them struggle a little bit against a UTEP team that Ole Miss took care of absolutely, flawlessly. I thought they played good ball against them. I mean, yeah, they didn't shut them out, but they played good ball for Ole Miss anyway. And then the next big game, you got Florida State and Clemson. Last year, Clemson was a big letdown. It was like, they were playing good ball. They beat a couple good ranked teams, and then they would just lose to a nobody. So they got Sammy Watkins back, which is an All-American wide receiver. You've heard me talk about him already this year. He's quality. He's a good guy, other than his drug issues or synthetic marijuana or whatever it was. But as far as on the field, he's an excellent athlete, and we'll get to see what he's going to produce this week against a quality Florida State team. I think that defense is going to play a key factor in here. I'm not sure. I'm just basically not sure at all about what Florida State's got for a defense. I know they got a powerful offense, but we've seen in the past that all these teams that have powerful offenses don't really prevail, especially when it comes to the big game, the national championship game. I think Clemson has a little bit stronger of a defense. I think they possibly have one of the better defenses in the ACC. I could be wrong there, and that's very arguable. I think that this is going to be possibly a close one, but I got to go with Clemson on that one. And I know that could be a struggle alert, but I think we're looking at teams that are both quality in the same, in the same area as far as even. And then now we're going to get over to the struggle alert. And my struggle alert is very simple. I think UCLA is going to take down Oregon State. I think Oregon State's got too big of a head. They came out, they've won some big games this year. But I don't think they're as good as what they're showing. I think UCLA, they will struggle with UCLA. And then USC and Cal. If USC doesn't get it together, I think Cal can beat them. This is a rivalry game, believe it or not. In-state rivalry. I think that if they don't get it together, a team that to me is not very good at all this year, Cal. I think you can see a struggle there. And we already talked about Kansas State and Oklahoma, and like I said, I think Oklahoma gets exposed. So sorry, Sooner fans. That's it. That's your pregame. That's all I got. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. To all my new subscribers, this is a new channel. I'm working on getting videos out faster. It's just taking some time, and you know, it's deciding where exactly I'm going to go with the channel. So any feedback would be appreciated. And as always, roll Tide, roll.